Hi, welcome again. This course is mostly going to be in the action domain. Like we will see how to implement machine learning in our day-to-day problems. So the process of implementing machine learning can be achieved in two different ways. One is BA using BA tools. We will call it as business analysis tools. There are lots of business analysis tools like SAS, SAS, SPSS, Veka, or few to mention. There are lots of tools. And the other way is programming. Using programming, we can use multiple programming languages to implement machine learning. But the most widely used is Python, R programming, Java, or few to be named. There are lots of other scripting languages using which the machine learning can be implemented as well. So there are a whole lot of tools using which we can learn how to implement machine learning. But the reason why we are sticking with Python is using which we can create solutions and then distribute it to others as well. It's not just we finding the answers and then keeping it ourselves. Python is more efficient. It has lots of libraries and lots of solutions already present inside that. So we'll focus most part of this particular video lesson in setting up the Python environment, which Python environment will make use of it, and then learn the basics of language as well. So let's get started. The first thing you can use Python is it's a scripting language. I'm going to go a little fast forward how to set up the execution environment. If you have any questions or clarifications, you can reach out to me, or just put it in the comments below. I'll give separate instructions. So here, to install Python, it is called as an IDE, integrated development environment. You can either make use of it in your own computer, or you can use an online execution environment. The first thing, I'll go with online. So to make use and execute Python, you don't need to download and install software. You can easily execute it online as well. I'm going to make use of a feature called as Google Colab, Co-Laboratory, that stands for Colab. Click on Google Colab. It will take you to the Google Colab laboratory. Here you will get a window like this. Click on New Notebook and you will get your first file called as a Colab notebook. This is called as an IPython notebook with an extension IPYNB here as it displays here. So the default file name which you will be able to edit. This is a common format called as IPython notebook. This is a portable Python file which can be executed when you have a Python interpreter in that specific PC. So you can download this file and you can execute this file even in your local environment. But right now we will see how to make use of it in this particular website. So the first cell is called an execution cell. Here you can give some basic inputs like I will create a variable, a simple variable called as number equals to 50. Click on enter and I'll create one more number, I equal to 3. So I created just two different variables and assigned some integer values to it. To execute this, I can click on this play button directly. When I click on this, you could observe it is connecting to somewhere and allocating some resources. This is connecting to a Python environment which is on the internet. This is called as a container which is existing in the Google Cloud solution. Once this gets connected, this particular cell gets executed as well. So the first time when you open a notebook, it needs to get connected with a execution environment. And now let me get some output out of it. So here I'm going to add these two numbers, number plus I, and now to get the output I'll execute it again. So all the statements in this particular cell will get executed. I will give the output beneath that particular cell. I can create multiple cells like this. I can click on code and create one more execution cell like that. And to insert comments, I can click on text and I can type some paragraph here that will not get executed. We will not be able to execute it. So this is a simple environment where we can write our program and then execute the contents in this online notebook. Once we are done with this, our results also will be saved you can give Control S to save and close this specific file as well, right? Yeah, once you log in, you will be able to log into this portal using your Google account. Once you are able to log in and set up this particular file, we'll go on to the next set of things. Okay. So I'll give an idea about offline installation as well. So right now I just showed you on Google Colab for the offline installation. So the preferred offline installation is PyCharm is the tool. To find PyCharm, you can go to Google, type PyCharm and just hit enter. This will bring the first link, jetbrains.com, PyCharm, the Python IDE for professional developers. There is an education version present in that. Just scroll down to the bottom or just click on the download button. It will take you to a page based on your operating system. Choose the community version of the software, free and open source version, that's the community version. Now once you download it, you will be able to, you will have the exe file. If you are using a Windows operating system, you will be able to install it, click and install it yourself. So let me open the PyCharm software application present inside my computer. So I have my PyCharm application downloaded already. I'm just opening it. You'll get a similar window like this. The first window what that comes up is called as project window. Using that project window, you will be able to create and set up a Python project for your development. Once your Python opens, this is how the fresh window will appear. You can either click on create new project to create a PyCharm, to create a Python project. So give a name here inside a specific folder wherever you want in your system. I'm giving test2 as the project folder name. Click on expand this tree and give a name for this VENV. The name will already be there. Select this virtual env, location PyCharm projects test2/VNV. Leave the other setup. Automatically it should have detected if there is already Python installed in your system. That Python path will appear here. So there are different versions in Python. Whichever version you want, you can select it and click on create. This will create your virtual environment and set up the tool for usage. So one warning, if you do not have Python installed already, that needs to be installed as well. I missed to mention that this PyCharm has to be installed on top of an existing Python version. So to download and install the Python, you will have to go to Google again, download, just click on Python, download, and this will get to the python.org website. So download Python from the python.org website. Click here and go to the download section. Whichever operating system preferred, click on Windows, select the file and then click on download, right? So this will download an exe again, double click it, execute, just click next in the Windows display and install it straightforward. Once you install Python, then install the PyCharm software that you downloaded just before this, and this would have prepared your environment for execution. Your project is now ready. To create any file inside this project, right click this file and create new Python file. So you can give a name for this. I'll give sample and hit enter. This will create sample.py, my Python file here. The same commands, whatever we have been looking in this window, in this Colab file, that we'll be able to look at there as well. So it's up to your choice. You can use either of these approaches, but throughout this program we will make use of this Colab itself. That would be easy for communication and easy to understand as well. So the alternative approach is what I just told you. Okay, so now let's get to the further topics. So we just looked at installing either through Python PyCharm or using Google Colab. So the basic operations in programming are it's going to be input, process and output. So that's what we just saw. What we saw was, in this particular notebook, we created inputs by way of creating variables. So left side are going to be called as, it can be called as variable, it can be called as identifier, to which we are assigning a numerical value. Once we assign that value, we can perform some operations on top of it, right? So this is going to be an input process, and the output is using the print statement. Using print, we are producing the output. So we are sending the output to an output system. Here print sends it to the display. So that forms the output part of this particular flow. So how it can be executed? It can be executed in two different modes. One is terminal mode and file mode. So either in terminal mode, here we will not be able to differentiate it between a terminal mode and file mode. It just executes the cell. Each and every cell will be executed here. But whereas in a local development environment, we will be able to differentiate both the modes separately. So just give you a hint how the terminal and file mode will be differing. So in case of a terminal mode, when you click on Python console in the bottom here, whatever window comes up, that is called as a terminal window. When we execute our valid Python statement, it gets executed here, a simple additional statement. 2 plus 3, it adds up and gives the output as 5. This is a valid Python statement, and that can be executed from a Python console. So this way of executing is called as Python console. Can be any statement, even a print statement can be executed from here. The same print statement, if I am going to copy this and put it inside a file and execute this as a run sample option, run this file by file name, this executes the file and produces the output result as well. So these are the two different modes. In the file mode, it executes the complete file, whereas in terminal mode, whatever single line of command is given, only that gets executed. This is quite simple and basic thing which most of you should be aware of, right? So these are the execution modes I have mentioned here. And now let's understand more briefly about the data types in Python. This is going to be 3 different data types, basic data types. We'll first look into the basic data types: numeric, string and boolean. So first, the kind of data whatever we store inside a variable is called as called by that specific name or data type. Here we stored a numeric value, an integer. It's called as a number data type. To check the data type, we can find it using a function called as type, and within brackets the variable name, say I. So type is going to give me the data type of value stored in I. So it says it belongs to class int, which stands for integer. So this is the way to read and print the type of data present in any variable. So the first thing is integer. The second variable what we will consider is a string variable. String variable are characters. It can be a single character or sequence of characters. All are going to be called as string in Python. For any variable to store a string value, it has to be given inside either a single quote, double quote or triple quote. So we'll first give a format of single quote. Hi. This is a string which is defined in single quotes. I'll give another string s2 equals to inside a double quote, hello. So this is again a valid string definition using double quotes. And now a third approach using 3 double quotes. That's what is going to be called as triple quotes. 3 double quotes, I'll be using it between the string value, like hello world. And again 3 triple quotes to enclose it. So all 3 are going to be 3 different string formats. If I am going to print it to the output, so multiple values can be separated by a comma in print statement. If I am going to print all these 3 outputs, this gives me the output in the output window below. So here the name S1 is not defined as the name error. It says S1 is, of course we did not define anywhere, it is here corrected as S1. And now if I am going to execute it, it executes hi, hello, hello world. So all 3 are 3 different strings, a valid string data type. We were able to create it and print it as well. To read the data type, again, if I had given print type of within bracket S1, the output would be obviously string value, right? So this is the second data type. Third is Boolean. So a Boolean data type is going to contain either of two values, either it can store true or false. So I created two different variables, one for true and one for false. So a true is going to contain an integer equivalent of value 1, a false will contain an integer equivalent of value 0. This will be made use of in multiple decision making statements. To validate a condition is satisfied or not, we will be using these Boolean variables. Okay, so this explains the third data type, Boolean data type. Okay, so we'll see in the next video. I'll stop this lesson. In the next video lesson, we'll see the further data types, the derived data types and extended data types. Until then, prepare your environment and have it ready for the further session. Thank you.